And honestly, as we've seen this huge increase in online crime, and particularly online crimes against children, for those of you who have kiddos, sexual exploitation of children online has increased about 800% in the last 3 years. So this is a crisis in our country, and many of us have seen this with our mental health crisis among young people. I've been working with the Michigan State Police and local law enforcement and schools on trying to get some programming for kids to keep them safe online. It's something I'm really passionate about, and it's something that I want to bring to Macomb County. So, a couple years ago, my opponent, Pete Buttigieg, posted on Facebook celebrating the Confederate General Lee. And by the way, he's got 10 sexual harassment allegations that have been found to be credible. And so folks were asking me to run for office, and I was like, no, I'm not running for office. I've got 3 little kids at home, and I really want to make sure that their lives are not completely taken over by a campaign, right? So I was like, no, I'm not going to run. And then, who here knows Donovan McKinney? Woo! Woo! Yeah, awesome, right? Donovan McKinney is one of our state representatives, and I will tell you that if he were here right now, he would be like, we've got to keep the Michigan House! But Donovan also ran for office for the first time when he was 26 years old. And Donovan was like, Christina, you got to run. And then all of these other people started telling me, Christina, you've got to run. And who here knows how many times does it take to tell a woman to run for office before she's going to run?
400?
I think it's 8, right? At least 8 times. And so folks kept telling me this. And then within another week from this happening is when Pete posted on Facebook celebrating that Confederate general. My husband is black. I'm raising 3 black kids at home. And for me, that was it. If I want to protect my family and if I want to protect our community, we need to have a prosecutor in Macomb County who's here to protect everybody. Yeah. So I decided to run. My husband has been a huge support. He said, I was waiting for you to say that you wanted to run. We have been just going at it, and I'm looking around the room, so many people who have helped my campaign, Bertie and George and Alyssa and so many folks, and I'm so grateful. But I will tell you, as somebody that I've knocked over 6,000 doors, our team has hit 75,000.
Wow.
And what I know to be true is that when you can have real conversations with people, like IRL in real life, right? Man, does it make a difference. Because just like I was mentioning with kids and young people, the impact that social media and these predators coming after our kids online is having, the reality is that social media is impacting all of us.
Yeah.
And man, are people yelling. I will tell you, my phone has been blowing up. My opponent is on my Facebook page trolling me right now.
Block him.
It's wild. I can't block him. No way. I'm not blocking this man. It's too good. It's too good. I love it. And this man is actually on my Twitter, on my Facebook, defending himself against these articles that are coming out about him. Yesterday, did anybody see the one yesterday from the Metro Times?
No.
Woo! Y'all. A 25-year veteran of the Macomb County Prosecutor's Office. She's been a domestic violence victim advocate for 25 years. And just as a little tiny bit of history, victims' rights are still new in Michigan. The first law was passed in 1985. Raise your hand if you were born before 1985. So this is new. This is still new. And she was hired in 1998, and she was only the 2nd domestic violence victim advocate in Macomb County history.
Wow.
I will mention, because you're going to hear from Carl Marlinga at the end of this. Woo! For those of you, woo! For those of you that don't know a whole lot about Carl Marlinga, he was the person that helped bring our sexual assault nurse examinations to Macomb County, and he also helped open up Care House, which takes in children who have been victims of sexual and physical abuse. I mean, this man has a legacy as a prosecutor. He hired some of the 2nd black prosecutor ever in the office. He significantly increased the number of female attorneys in the office. He has proven through his career that he is a person of character and a person that wants to make our community better. So big plug for him. I hope that I can restore some of that integrity and have such a similar legacy in the Macomb County Prosecutor's Office. But going back to my opponent in this article, because it's wonderful. So this woman recently saw Pete Lucido's press release saying, "Our office is the best office in the entire world for domestic violence victims." And did you know that Pete Lucido has switched over the crime victims unit in the office from a unit that makes phone calls to survivors to a unit that sends automated text messages and AI-generated videos to victims? And he's bragging about this because from his perspective, this means that they're able to serve more people. Well, yeah, I know. As somebody that's running for office, I mean, how many text messages have you guys gotten? Right? I mean, from me, but from other people too. Probably like over a dozen in this last week, right? So we are. Yeah. I know. I will say, like, Kamala texts me more than my best friends.
All of them.
The thing is that text messages are not real service. It's not a personal service to survivors. And so this domestic violence victim advocate saw this press release and she was like, no, I'm going to talk about it. And I'll be honest, she had recently in September was the first time I ever got to meet her, and she came to one of my fundraisers because she had retired from the office and she's like, now it's safe for me to come and support you. And so she had done this and she has been very supportive of me, but this article is a bombshell talking about how Pete LaService has ruined victim services in Macomb County because now they can't even call these survivors because they have to input all of this information about text messages going out. And so this guy, Pete Lucido, is over here responding to every single tweet and every single post that I make, and he's not actually campaigning. Right?
You're threatening him, though. You're threatening him.
I know. And it feels good. All right. So, you all, I am so excited to be here. I'm so excited to be running. And I hope that all of you will just take some of this excitement and joy, too, because we need joyful warriors out there on the door, talking to people, having real conversations, and trying to remind people we deserve civility. We deserve people who are here to actually serve, not politicians, but real public servants. And so I'm so excited to announce another real, am I doing it? Nate? Yes. Yeah? Another real public servant, Nate
It's always going to be difficult to follow up Christina, so great candidate. Very glad that she's stepped into this race. I think it's a very important race. I'm Representative Nate Shannon. I'm running for re-election for my 4th term. Very close to this district. This is not quite my district. My district is down the road a little bit. As many of you know, many of you are from Macomb County, many of you may not be. Macomb County is very difficult for a Democrat to win, and especially in the district that I'm in. It's a completely marginal district, 50-50. And so we've been working very hard with my campaign team, who's over here, to make sure that we can continue to hold. And then also he's joined by a field director, Justin. So it's going to be very difficult to win, but we've put in the work and we spent the money, and we need to be able to hold the House so that we can continue the good work that we've done as a Democratic trifecta over the past couple of years. So with all of you, many of you in this crowd have been helpful, have gone out and done doors, made phone calls, contributed to our campaign, and we really appreciate that. So thank you very much. And 12 days left. There's still a lot of work to do, but I do think that we're going to be successful and be able to hold the House so we can continue to do the work that we've been doing. Is the Macomb County Democratic Party Chair, Alyssa Diebold. She has a few words for us today. Alyssa?
Like said, I'm Alyssa, I'm the chair of Macomb Dems. It's super cool to be here today to help welcome Representative Annie Custer and Pete Buttigieg. I want to point out to everyone that's going to be up here, down ballot elections matter and local elections really matter. Nate used to be on the Sterling Heights City Council. Annie, her father was mayor of Concord, New Hampshire, and her mother was a state senator. I don't know if you know this, but he was mayor of a small town in Indiana. South Bend is smaller than Warren, Sterling Heights, and Clinton Township, so it is a small town.
It's awesome.
Sure. Cara Marlinga was our county prosecutor and our probate judge. So when you go out on the doors today, it is so important to share the awesomeness that is our full ticket. I'm so proud that our ticket is diverse, intelligent, and full of candidates who really want to serve the people of Macomb County. That desire to serve starts at the top of the ticket with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and continues all the way down to nonpartisan offices, at least with the candidates endorsed by Macomb Dems. I am so excited to introduce New Hampshire Representative Annie Custer, chair of the New Democrats Coalition.
I'm Annie Custer. I'm a six-term member of Congress. I am the chair of a group called the New Democrat Coalition, and I'm super fired up to be with you. I hope you're excited to get on the doors. So I hope it's not too much responsibility. I think looking around this crowd that you can handle it, but let's just say the future of the United States House of Representatives, the future of the United States Senate, the future of the White House Vice President and President, the future of our country, our freedom, our democracy, and our planet are on your shoulders today. I have the great pleasure to introduce a very, very good friend of mine. I was so fortunate, you may have heard of New Hampshire and our First in the Nation presidential primary. And we had a lot of candidates back in 2020. And one of those amazing candidates was Pete Buttigieg from South Bend. I was one of the people holding the signs, but I got a chance to campaign with Pete. He's a good friend. Please welcome Chasten's husband.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Andy. Andy and I became friends when I was running around New Hampshire trying to get known. And in New Hampshire, they're very accustomed to being the center of the political universe. But I think it's fitting that you have Annie Custer and a whole lot of other folks here, folks who are from Michigan, even if I'm married into Michigan, folks who are lifelong Michiganders, and folks from other parts of the country, because you are very much the center of the political universe right here. And I know that you're going to do everything that it takes to make sure that this district, this neighborhood, this county, this area propels a historic victory for Democrats up and down the ticket. I'm doing everything I can to make sure that Kamala Harris is the next president of the United States. I know you are too. Before I get to why I'm doing that, I want to recognize you for understanding that the presidency, as epically important as it is not the only office that matters. You are here because you also understand that up and down the ticket, we've got critically important races. Those local races that are so close to home, that are going to shape what it is like in your neighborhood and in your community, where issues from economic development to public safety are at stake. The razor-thin, ultra-important House majority that Nate Shannon is going to be part of keeping. Thank you for making sure that we keep that trifecta. The United States Congress. So, there are moments where I think it's gotten so goofy up there that we think of it as a kind of like it's just a show, and you have to remind yourself, this is not a high school model of Congress. This is the actual United States Congress that writes laws that the rest of us have to live by. And it's led right now by a speaker who not only doesn't think people like me ought to be able to get married, he doesn't think straight people ought to be able to get divorced. Like, that's how extreme the social agenda you have, right? To say nothing of the economic implications, and there's nowhere better to talk about it than here. The economic implications of either developing the manufacturing renaissance that we're experiencing, where you live and where I live, where when I was growing up, they told us we're done making things, the union jobs are all gone, and right now you are proving that we can break the old false choice between doing the right thing for the environment and doing the right thing for the auto industry and manufacturing jobs, because you were doing it right here with good pay. That this isn't just what we are working to block and the madness that we're trying to hold at bay, it's also what we are working to build. And that's what I see in a leader like Carl Marlinga. You are the center of the universe. Right now. It's just the way it is. I could be getting ready to do a TV show in New York City. I could be in the Roosevelt room of the White House, and somebody will come up to me and say, "What's going on in Michigan? What do you think?" It's just the way it is right now. Right? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people who couldn't find Macomb County on a map are still asking, "How's it going in Macomb County?" Madam Chair, it's going just fine, right? But that's because of you, and we got to sprint through the tape on this. And the biggest thing I want to leave you with, you're here, you know how important this is, you know the issues. But I want to remind you of just a couple of things. First of all, on the issues, us Democrats are accustomed to the feeling of pretty much assuming that whatever we believe in must be unpopular, right? We just formed that kind of muscle memory over time. People are with us on issue after issue after issue. People get that we need to be creating more good-paying union jobs in a way that's also compatible with America's clean energy and clean manufacturing future. People get, and I know this is close to home and a painful issue here in this community, people get that if we're serious about keeping our young people safe, it's not about stopping them from being exposed to a politically unpopular book in their school library. It's about making sure assault weapons don't get anywhere near them. Understand that in a free country, and by the way, I know a lot of Republicans as well as most independents, as well as pretty much all Democrats get, that in a free country you get to be who you are, you get to love who you love, and the right person to make a woman's healthcare decisions and reproductive decisions is that woman. Even if we didn't have somebody on the other side of the ticket who is prompting even incredibly conservative Republicans, and not just any old Republicans, but the ones who he chose to work for him, like his own chief of staff, to say, hey, this guy has no business coming anywhere near the White House. Think about what that means. Not only has there never been a time in American history where this many Republicans came out and said, vote Democrat, but there has never in American history been a time when a president's own chief of staff denounced him as an authoritarian. Right? That's what we're dealing with right now. But even if we weren't up against that, what we are for should be more than enough to propel the kinds of conversations that you're having with me. You are doing the hardest and most important part of politics. And that's the other thing I wanted to ask you to take as your propulsion in these next few days. It is helpful to go on Fox News and have a zinger that goes around the internet like that. Right? My unexpected specialty. Right? It is helpful to have the ads, even though I know you were all ready to get to the other side of the ads, right? On our TV. It is helpful to have that direct mail flying, but by far, I mean, every piece of research has told us that the most important thing, the most effective thing, the thing that is most likely to help people be convinced on how to vote, and just as important, as you well know, being convinced on whether to vote, right? The most important thing is somebody that you actually interact with, a friend, a neighbor, somebody from the same community, knocking on that door saying, here's what it means to me. And you know, and I don't, what it means to you. You know why you're here, and it's going to be different for every one of you. You are an expert on what brought you into this fight. For me, it's about our kids. And every parent becomes a parent and then immediately starts sounding like what they thought used to be a cliche. There's no way without lasting cliches to talk about it. But that's how I feel ever since 3 years ago. We got that phone call, and the next day we're holding in our arms our son and our daughter who we're raising in Michigan and want to have a good future. Important to make sure that they grow up in a better Michigan and a better America than the one that was handed to us. It's critically important. And that's going to take work. We're at the toddler phase where they come in sometimes in the middle of the night saying that the monster's coming or that a dinosaur is going to get them. And I do what any dad would do, which is, reassure them, okay, I'm going to do a perimeter check just to make sure. I got some dinosaur spray in the basement. I'll make sure we're covered. But don't you worry about a thing. I got you covered. No dinosaur is going to get you tonight. Right? And it feels good as a parent to make a promise to your kid that you're 100% sure is going to come true. No effort on your part, actually. But the really important promises we're making to our kids are going to take an effort. Right? I want to make just as 100% sure, I want to make just as good a promise to my daughter that she will not have lived to see the high watermark of rights and freedoms in American society, but rather that she will have more rights and freedoms than I will. I want my son and daughter to go to school and then middle school and high school, and I want them worrying about stuff like what lunch table to sit at, not whether they're going to be physically safe. That takes work. I want my son and daughter to grow up and live and thrive in an authentically representative multiracial democracy, which is exactly what you're doing. That is the goal, and this is the work, and you're doing it. Which means I'm not going to take more than one more minute in between you and getting out there and actually doing that work, because this is the very stuff of democracy. And this is the stuff that's going to make us proud by the time my kids are old enough to ask, and I'm sure it won't take that long, for them to be looking in the eye and say, Papa, in the 2020s, when I wasn't old enough to know what was going on, but you were old enough to be in a position of responsibility to shape whether the world I was going to grow up into got better or got worse. What did you do? What were you doing? And I don't want to say I was sitting there playing Wordle and I was hanging out by the pool and I was comfortable in my relationships. I want to say that I was out there on the ground in places like Macomb County, Michigan, where it was. But make no mistake, I'll end where I began. This is not just about the White House, as cosmically as important as the direction of the presidency is. This is about the United States House of Representatives, where Annie's been doing such extraordinary work over the years shaping that better future for our kids, where they actually originate the laws, good, bad, and indifferent, that all of us have to live by that shape whether we're going to go in the right direction or the wrong direction. We need somebody with wisdom. We need somebody with judgment. We need somebody with roots. We need somebody who demonstrated, by the way, when frankly, like a lot of famous and well-connected national political organizers were not paying a whole lot of attention to this district, did things people didn't think were possible.
Right.
Yes.
Now it's time to make sure that he gets over the line and becomes the next United States Congressman.
Annie being with me and with Pete Buttigieg, the real Pete Buttigieg, introducing me. By the way, Todd Davis out there gave the signal where we are in the map. He's from Michigan. He knows us. Okay. He knew back at D.C. He knows all our things. Okay, so I do want a special thanks to Pete for coming and introducing me. I'm sure everybody here will join in what I'm thinking now is that when you hear Pete Buttigieg speak, it's not only that you hear us speak, you can hear him think, you can hear him reason, you can hear him bring facts and logic and reason together. in a way that you don't hear in American politics. Well, maybe with John Kennedy or Barack Obama or others. I mean, we've heard it before, but I don't think anybody's at the pinnacle of saying important things succinctly, logically, and persuasively, and in such a pleasant manner as Pete.
Yeah.
So I do want to embarrass somebody, but just one additional comment that 8 years from now, after the new age of enlightenment with the Harris administration, we are going to be searching for a new president of the United States. Yeah, that guy introduced me once back. So enough about us. Let's get to the real important people over here, which are you. Okay. I know that because I've gone door to door. Megan Cola and I, Aisha Faruqi, we've done this. I like going door to door because it helps a person when running for office to forget about the toxic stuff on TV, to actually go talk to real people, and it is refreshing. It is good. But I also know when you're in the middle of the block and you got your van thing on your phone, you're looking up and down the block and you hit 100 houses, all right, and only 15 people were home. Yeah. And you've been out there for 2.5 hours, and you're either cold or you're hot or you're getting rained on, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, maybe I'll do this next week and the week after that, but if I talk to 15 people, have I changed anybody's mind? Well, maybe. Maybe on a good day you could say, maybe I changed 1 or 2 persons' minds, right. But maybe I also caused a couple more to come out and vote. Yeah. But then you say to yourself, have I really accomplished anything? And the answer is, hell yes. Okay. I'll use two analogies. The Chinese have a saying that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And you get the analogy that yeah, it's a long, hard trek, but if you don't start, you'll never get there. And if you just take time out to rest and you let a couple of days go by, you'll never get there. The other thing, as a prosecutor and a trial attorney and a judge, I've often explained to juries about the way that we, outside of politics, where everything is just charges and countercharges without any idea what the truth is. When you're in court, you're building a case. And so, as a prosecutor, I would make this argument that when my case comes in, let's say I'm trying to build a wall. A brick doesn't make a wall. But you're not going to get to a wall unless you lay one brick at a time, and then another brick, and then another brick. And after 7 or 8 bricks, somebody will walk by and say, what are you doing? Well, I'm building a wall. No, you're not. That's 7 bricks. Don't be ridiculous. Anyway, you get the point. That in order to build this, you got to go 1 brick at a time. And let's say the 5 people that you will persuade today, or tomorrow, or the day after, that's part of your score. Maybe you can get up to 50 people that you've changed your minds. But remember, you're not the only one doing this. Right. There are hundreds of people in this district who are doing the same thing. And so when you multiply the 50 that you have, even by 100, what's that come out to? 5,000. This race was decided by 1,600 votes last time, all right? You got it right there. 15 congressional districts around the state, you've got the margin of victory for a Senate victory so that we hold the Senate with Alyssa Slotkin and the of what you do 1 brick at a time to make Kamala Harris the next president of the United States. And as the Secretary said, this isn't a model Congress. This is important stuff because the history of the United States, the history of the world will change as a result of this election. All right, we will either enter into that new Enlightenment with the Harris administration, or just think of it, of the people in Europe looking at us and saying, okay, they elected Donald Trump once. They won't do it again. Right? If we did it again, the United States reputation in world affairs would decline precipitously. We would never be trusted as much again. All right, our enemies would rejoice because they have a useful fool in the White House that they can flatter and cajole to do whatever they want, and our allies would be saying, we gotta think again about how close we get to the United States. They could have another administration. They have one now with Donald, but they could have another one. They are untrustworthy partners as we go into the future, and that means a lot, not only in terms of world security, but world trade, alliance. Everything depends upon the United States having the trust that we should have. And it rises and falls on this election. And let me just talk about two other issues. One of them is what will happen on January 6th of 2025. We know what happened on January 6th of 2021. By unhappy coincidence, the date happens to be the same when the electoral ballots are open. Now, the vice president will be a reasonable vice president, actually, as was last time. When Mike Pence did his profile in courage and stood up to Donald Trump, he will go down in the history books for having that integrity and courage. Yeah. If we don't have a majority in the House and Senate, what they did in 2021 was done with only 2 months of helter-skelter planning. They've had 4 years now for a contingency plan. You know that they have all of their memos with all of their odd constitutional theories ready to go to disenfranchise individual votes, electoral votes, to send it back to the states until they bludgeon the legislatures in the several states to get the kind of result that they want. All right? We can't have that. We need a Democratic majority in both the House and Senate. Is this. It's the fundamental personal freedom issue of our time. The Republicans, through the Republican Study Group, have a proposal that they will redefine life to begin at conception, meaning that all abortion will be banned nationwide from the moment of conception onward, with no exception for rape or incest. And the other thing is, they don't even, you hear Trump and James saying, well, we're not really looking for a constitutional amendment. They think they already have one. J.D. Vance already wrote a letter explaining that the Comstock Act of 1873, which bans contraception and abortion, is still valid law. It's bunk. In law school, it would be laughed out of the classroom. But remember, we now have a Supreme Court which said we're overthrowing Dobbs, that gun stocks that make semi-automatic weapons automatic weapons are protected under the Second Amendment, and also that the President of the United States has immunity. Junk law has now become acceptable, and so you can't count on the courts. What you can count on is us. What you can count on is our boots on the ground. We have to save democracy. You are the foot soldiers to do it.
Group photo together, okay? Squeeze in right over here.